Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, from Davis, California. This is Brother K, and this is my first live broadcast on this page, as far as I can recall. I may have done one many years ago, but this is my first live broadcast on my community page here. And thank you for all your support over the years. I founded Bloodstained Men 11 years ago in 2012, after we saw the dramatic response of the attendees at the 2012 AAP convention in New Orleans. When we put on the bloodstained suits outside the convention hall there in New Orleans, the doctors and other attendees came rushing out of the convention hall with their cameras to get that picture. And when I saw that reaction, when I saw the blood stain on the other men who wore it that day, the seven men who wore the bloodstained suit that day in New Orleans, I knew that that symbol was the most powerful protest symbol in human history. And no one has offered an alternative symbol to me to this day. I hold firm to my belief that I had then. I expressed it then, even before I founded Bloodstained Men a few weeks later, based around the bloodstained suit. I told the intactivist biographer, James Lowen, a day or two after we were still in New Orleans, I told him that the bloodstained suit was the most powerful protest symbol in human history. The reason why is because you think of the usual symbols, or like say a letter. A letter itself is a symbol. It doesn't represent anything except what you're taught that it represents. You have to be told what it represents, the letter A, for example. Or a word, you have to learn what the combination of letters that make a word. Words are symbols. A written word is a symbol, combination of symbols. But the bloodstain on a man's clothes is a living symbol of the wound he suffered at birth. It's a living symbol of that injury. The bloodstained suit externalizes the wound. It puts it on the outside of our clothing and shows the wound that we suffered to the public in a visceral, gut-wrenching, shocking display of circumcision blood and the circumcision wound. That's the power. That's the historical power of the bloodstain and the bloodstained suit. So last night, very, very pleased to announce, Bloodstained Men posted on our website our fall tour schedule. We will be in Maryland and Virginia and Washington, D.C. from October 12th to October 24th. And I invite you to join me and the Bloodstained Men and many other intactivists in Washington, D.C. on Saturday, October 21st. If you can only join us for one day of that tour, mark it on your calendars. Saturday, October 21, we will be at the Washington, I will be there too, 9 to 5, outside, protesting at the American Academy of Pediatrics at their annual convention at the Washington Convention Center in Washington, D.C. If you want to see the entire schedule for the Maryland and Virginia tour, go to bloodstainedmen.com. Bloodstainedmen.com, and you will see the drop-down menu on the right, and you will see the 13 days of protests that Bloodstained Men volunteers will be holding across, up and down, and around Virginia and Maryland. We need your help, ladies and gentlemen. We have an ongoing billboard fundraiser to put up a billboard, one of our huge trademark billboards. in a Virginia city. We need to raise $5,000 to make that happen. We're not quite a third of the way there yet. That's Carol Ann Babiak's birthday fundraiser. She is on the board of directors and is the billboard purchaser for Bloodstained Men, so she knows how expensive those billboards are. We are all volunteers. When you donate to Bloodstained Men, whether you donate to our general fund or to a billboard, none of us earn a penny. I don't earn a penny. We are all volunteers. I'm a volunteer. I've been a volunteer all 11 years. I don't get paid not a penny, not a dime, not a nickel, not a dollar, nothing, nada. I do this work because someone has to do it and no one was doing it. We are the first nationwide protest movement against infant circumcision in the United States, and currently still the only nationwide protest movement against infant circumcision in the United States. So when you donate to Bloodstained Men, your donation goes directly either for our signs, equipment, billboard, or for the costs, our travel costs, the travel costs for our volunteers to travel for 2 weeks on the road, because actually a 13-day tour involves a little over 2 weeks, because there's a travel day at the beginning and a travel day at the end. So it's a two-week commitment from our volunteers. And they don't get paid, ladies and gentlemen. And you may know one of the volunteers. There have been so many people who have toured with us. They take time off from their jobs, from their work, from their family. Relatives step in to watch their kids. They use their vacation time to take time off from their work. And that's how we do it. That's how Bloodstained Men is able to afford to do so much on so little, because you donate your hard-earned money to Bloodstained Men, and we don't pay ourselves. We don't pay ourselves. Your donations are enough so far for us to do these nationwide protests. And at the end of the fall tour, we will have protested in 100 cities in this calendar year alone. In 2023, at the end of the fall tour, right now we've protested, because we do 2 protests a day. We protest in the first city from 10 to 2 in the morning, and then, 10 to noon in the first city, and then we take a 2-hour break, which usually involves at least an hour of driving to the next city, where we protest from 2 to 4 in the afternoon. Sundays, the schedule is set back an hour because people aren't up as early on Sundays. So on Sundays only, our schedules, we call them double headers. So we do double header protests on every normal day of a tour. So Sundays, it's 11 to 1 and 3 to 5. But our day in and day out tours are 10 to noon and 2 to 4. So there's a lot of driving involved, because then at the end of the second tour, the second protest on any given day, then we have to drive another hour, 2 hours. Sometimes it's a 3-hour drive, because we cover wide territories. That's how we reach so many people. And we have a media outreach team. We've got a lot of mainstream media coverage, social media. Social media is always, our protests are always widely covered in social media. And we don't always see the social media either. A lot of the Facebook groups are only visible to people who are in that group. But we've seen screenshots, some of these local groups that have 50,000, 100,000 people in them. Like, I'll give you an example. It might be called like Only in Peoria. That's just an example. I don't think there is such a Facebook group, but there was a Peoria group in which we were featured, but we couldn't see it. But that's how we spread the word, ladies and gentlemen. And in Tactivism, we have the winning message in human history. We have the truth on our side. We have human rights on our side, the facts, the science, and most of all, we have parental love on our side. Parents love their children. They don't want to injure their children. And American parents have been duped. They have been duped by the American circumcision industry into believing that circumcision is a benefit. It's Orwellian doublespeak. It's exactly the opposite. Circumcision is harm. That's all it does. It's only harm. It only benefits the doctors. Jason, hello. So we have the winning argument, ladies and gentlemen. The truth is on our side. Human rights will prevail. If it's criminal to circumcise a girl, and it is, it's criminal to circumcise a boy. Just the law has not recognized it yet. The law has not recognized it yet. So our job as intactivists is to work for that day when there is a consensus, when there is enough of a consensus that courts and judges will rule in our favor that circumcision is child abuse, not medicine. And then American doctors can put their destructive penis implements, their tools of penile destruction, they can put them away, put them in the torture museums where they belong and where they will be someday, ladies and gentlemen. That's what we're working for. We are social reformers. If you are an intactivist, you are a social reformer. It's in your blood. It's in your bones. You want to leave this world a better place than what you met with when you came into it. There are obstructionists. There are obstructionists who want to stop us. There have always been those who opposed social reform, and there always will be. So they're not going to help us. And if they have their way, they will stop us. But they have no arguments. Their only argument is we hate intactivists. They're the obstructionists who have always supported the status quo. All social reform movements. Let me see what Jason says. Right is right, Brother K. Keep fight. Thank you, Jason. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Jason. I really do appreciate that. And I don't know where you live, Jason, but if you can join us, I'd love to meet you on the front lines. If not on this tour, we're going to be all over the United States next year. I know for certain. Well, I know the first 2 tours of next year. We're cutting back to 3 tours next year. But the tour, our spring tour, 2024, that will be in May. That will be based around the Saturday in May in which the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, ACOG, the OBGYNs, that's going to be the Saturday in May. And I don't recall the date. It's like May 20 something, but it's a Saturday. We will be in San Francisco, and that will be, it may be more than, because I know we wanted to try to do 100 cities next year, so we may make each tour longer than 13 days because we will only be doing 3 tours next year. But that will be Northern California, and I believe we're going to go into Oregon, possibly further. I just don't know the details. We still are working on that. But that's going to be in May of 2024. And then July and August, again, I don't know the exact dates, but our summer tour, which will be July-ish, August time frame, will be Ohio. Possibly a few stops in West Virginia, but the main tour will be in Ohio. That will be the summer of next year, 2024. And I haven't sat down with our planner yet to talk about next fall, the fall of 2024. But we generally lay out the rough framework about a year in advance for each tour, each regional tour. We've been to about 600 cities in the last 11 years. We've stepped up our game. We're now doing double headers. We used to only do one city a day. And when we figured out that how we could do it, it's more work for us, but we reach a lot more people doing double headers. So we're going to stick to that strategy now. We do 2 protests a day, except for special events. So, for example, with the upcoming tour, the Virginia, Maryland tour coming up, those are all double headers, 2 protests a day, except for the one day where we protest outside the Washington Convention Center, the annual convention of the American Academy of Pediatrics. And I'm looking forward to that. Haven't looked them in the eye for a while. And I'll tell you, they turn and run the other way when they see bloodstained men. We're peaceful protesters, and they know that. They just can't bear their own ignorance and cowardice. They can't answer our questions. We ask those doctors, tell us the structure and the function of the foreskin, and they say, well, we don't know. What an embarrassing thing to say. They are amputating a body part that by their own admission, they don't understand or know. It's absolutely criminal malpractice to amputate a body part that they don't even understand or know the anatomy of. How dare they? How dare they, ladies and gentlemen? Let me see. Casey, hello. BK, oh, Michigan. Well, Jason, we will be back to Michigan eventually. We were in Michigan last year. That would have been, I believe, last spring. We were in Michigan. Sorry we missed you, but Michigan's an important state for us, and we will be back there for sure. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is my live broadcast here. This is my 3rd live in a row here on Facebook. I first went live about an hour ago on my personal page. This is my community page, Brother K. I have a personal page with the same name, Brother K. That's my legal name. And then I did a live also on the page Bloodstained Men and Their Friends. So if you want to see more of the live action here, I'm out here reporting the good news that we now have our schedule up. Our schedule is up for the Virginia, Maryland tour. And I would love to meet you on that tour, ladies and gentlemen. Please join us if you can. If you live anywhere near Washington, D.C., if it's within driving distance, some people have even driven 500, 1,000 miles to protest for a few hours with bloodstained men. And honestly, I'm not saying you have to do it or should do it, but if I were at home and I hadn't been out protesting for a while, I would say, I will drive. I'll go and spend the night at such and such a place and join bloodstained men on the front lines. We need your help, ladies and gentlemen. I say that because we need your help. We need your help. This is a peculiar time in American history. A peculiar time when the greatest, the most traumatic and severe human rights violation of the 21st century is the genital mutilation of American boys. That's it. That is the most severe human rights violation of the 21st century in the United States. That's why we call our protest tours crisis tours. This is an ongoing crisis, ladies and gentlemen. American doctors sit back and count their money, $5 billion a year, and smirk that we have to work so hard to stop them, to stop this crisis that they have created. A $5 billion industry. It is absolutely criminal, corrupt, depraved. This violent genital mutilation of newborn babies, and make no mistake about it, it is violent. Circumcision is a violent deed. That's why they have to strap them down, arms and legs, strap them down tight to mask, to conceal the violent struggles of the babies. Those babies struggle violently to break loose, ladies and gentlemen, but you can't see it. When you see the circumcision, you may see their heads thrashing back and forth. You hear their howls of pain and anguish. But the act of circumcision itself is a violent act of child sexual abuse. So join me and Bloodstained Men in Washington, D.C. on Saturday, October 21st, just about 2 months from now, 9 to 5 at the Washington Convention Center, and you can see the rest of the schedule. We'll be in 24 other cities, 12 other days, 2 cities a day. You can see that complete schedule. I'm getting a low battery warning. You can see that complete schedule on our website at bloodstainedmen.com. Jason says we have to be as relentless as the doctors are. When I was in the hospital with my second intact son, wow. I was asked 7 times if I was sure I wanted. Unbelievable. That is criminal. That is criminal behavior, Jason. You are subjected to coercion, manipulation, badgering, bullying. Honestly, even asking 1 time is criminal. Doctors and nurses are not allowed to solicit surgery, but no one's enforcing the law when it comes to infant circumcision. Linda, hello. That's outrageous. Read Jason's comment, ladies and gentlemen. 7 times. And Jason, that's a small number. That's a small number for the stories I hear. I've heard parents being asked 15 and 20 times. And they tag team you. They send in a nurse, 1 nurse. If you tell that nurse no, they send in another nurse. Then they'll send in 2 nurses. They send in new nurses. They send in a doctor. They'll have doctors come in. I posted a story last night. One doctor came in and told the mom, she was a young mom, that if she did not sign the circumcision consent form, he was obligated to call Child Protective Services. He threatened to call CPS on her. And she was a young mom. She didn't know. So they scared her. They scared her into signing the consent form. So thanks, ladies and gentlemen. I will see you on the front lines in Washington, D.C., if you can, on Saturday, October 21st. And remember, friends don't let friends circumcise. You can warn your friends, relatives, neighbors, and loved ones that circumcision is child abuse, not medicine. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. See you next time.